It is 22nd century, and the Earth is a complete mess thanks to humans breeding like rabbits. And because of that, every centimeter of our planet became covered in shit, and the nature left us with the last words.
Fuck all of y'all, okay?
There is no middle class left anymore, only criminals and poor people trying to survive on the planet. Meanwhile, the rich have left Earth and are having a great time on the Elysium space station, which is supplied by the entire dying planet. But seriously, where did the middle class go? We will never see anyone who is relatively rich living on Earth. Why?
Because fuck you.
Why did the elite of humanity decide to live there is not clear either, because it would have been far easier and cheaper to build a city under a secure dome on Earth. Being on Elysium, the rich people have only a few kinds of entertainment, depressing meetings with champagne and using a med bay every once in a while to get cured of all possible diseases. In a nutshell, that's the entire life of Elysians. Eating, drinking and using med bays. Well, and sometimes shoot down the poor people who make raids on them in order to use a med bay, because after 150 years, the medicine on Earth didn't develop at all, and the rich people don't want to share the med bays.
Should've known. Greedy bastards.
And considering that everything Elysium uses, including the med bays, is created on Earth, it is not very clear why the government doesn't install a few of them in the hospitals. Then it would be easier for people to survive there, and there would be far less illegals trying to invade Elysium. So, in this fucked up world, lives the main character, Matt Damon, or Max.
This one's done it all. Kidnapping, robbery, murder, extortion.
Seems like he's a really good guy.
Who is on probation for car theft, works at a factory, but still somehow has time to work out and keep a healthy diet. And being on probation while he's checked by the robots, Max tries to show them some stand-up comedy.
What's in the bag?
Hair products, mostly.
What have we got here? A fucking comedian, private joker.
After that, the robot with the glitchy software sees this as a defiance act and breaks Max's arm.
Technology!
The fracture forces Max to go to the hospital, where he meets his childhood friend, Frey, and after getting a plaster cast, invites her to have a meeting.
Have dinner with me. Just...
Oh, you mean sex?
All right. Coffee. Yeah, coffee. Great.
So Max works on a factory producing the robots that don't get his witty jokes, and the factory is owned by one rich asshole.
The man who, owns all the oil, forces Chinese children to make smartphones and hates Palestine.
Whose business is completely screwed. The sales of the robots are declining, which doesn't make the investors happy.
I'm doing everything possible to restore profitability to this company.
You know that means you suck.
And while Max is assembling the arm breakers, somewhere in Los Angeles, the local Pablo Escobar knockoff is organizing a trip to Elysium for the sick people. And not only that, some underground deadbeats somehow own 3 spaceships, they also freely leave the planet's airspace, which is not controlled by anybody.
How's that even possible?
And as we will see, a ticket to Elysium costs huge money, but people from the slums just wave some banknotes and are let into the spacecraft. And the cost of building a spaceship illegally in such world must be astronomical. And so the shuttles are freely leaving Earth and go straight to the Elysium station, which the defense minister is notified about immediately.
Who is this bitch?
A powerful and vicious madam who has a medbay that can stop aging, but still walks around in the body of 50 years old Jodie Foster.
She's like 50 years old.
But still fly.
But the best thing about Elysium is its defense system. No force field, no air defense, no petrol spaceships. There is absolutely no defense.
What?
Well, actually there is a defense, represented by the agent Hobo Psychopath, who lives on Earth.
Activate Kruger.
What the fuck do you want?
The citizens of Elysium are very lucky that at this moment Kruger wasn't sitting on a toilet, and instead immediately launched 4 tiny missiles to destroy the spaceships. And in this movie the shuttles can take off without a booster stage. Let's assume that they have small fusion engines on board, but how did the Kruger's missiles reach the first cosmic velocity in order to escape the atmosphere? They definitely wouldn't have enough space for a fusion engine. And how did they have enough fuel to cover such a long distance to the shuttles?
Because fuck you.
And so the magical missiles destroyed 2 shuttles, because the pilots were not smart enough to divert their course and avoid the impact, like the pilot of the 3rd shuttle did. And after that, the shuttle is reaching Elysium, which has such a thin layer of atmosphere that the shuttle is entering it on a full speed and doesn't even burn.
Ma'am, the ship has breached our atmosphere.
Fucking hell. That was easy.
All illegals are captured and only one mother and her daughter are lucky enough to use the medbay and get healed. The rest are...
Send them to deportation.
It was bad luck.
And on Earth, Max has a new working day. Max is assembling the robots as usual, and when he's pressing the button to close the cyber furnace and bake a new fresh set of robots with some radiation, the door gets jammed with a pellet inside the furnace. And it is obvious that the moment when the obstruction is removed, the door will close. But Max, after being threatened by his boss, climbs into the furnace and removes the pellet. What was he hoping for? I don't think that, even in the 22nd century, it is better to be dead than unemployed. And Max didn't even use any safety measures to prevent the door from closing. I guess it's time to hang the safety posters around their factory. Block the furnace with a tool. Not to burn yourself, you fool. Max gets a lethal dose of radiation, and the medical robot recommends him not to make any plans for the next week.
In 5 days' time, you will die.
Sorry. You seem like a good man.
He was an idiot.
And because of this incident, the whole factory is on hold, that even the rich asshole went down to the medical block. Apparently he doesn't have any assistants or factory supervisors. And all that is happening just for Max to get angry at the rich asshole guy when he sees that he doesn't care about him.
I don't want to replace the betting in there. Just get him out.
And meanwhile, on Elysium there is a meeting after the incident with the illegals. The president is scolding Foster for being too aggressive about the station defense, fires the agent psychopath, and tells Foster to stop making decisions on her own.
This is your final warning. Any further unauthorized actions, and you will be removed from office.
Stupid bastard.
And so, being angry because the president has forbidden her to shoot down shuttles full of people, the vicious bitch decides to plan a coup, replacing the current Elysium president with herself. Well, fortunately, according to the dumb logic of this world, everything can be changed just by editing the computer code that controls Elysium. When the rich asshole guy is assured that after the coup he won't have any problems with the new droid orders, he goes back to his office and writes a computer code that reboots the entire Elysium. Just like that, by himself, simply during his lunch break. And after that, for some reason, he decides to bring the virus to Elysium in his own head. Apparently, it would be way too simple just to send it by secure channel to Foster's personal computer. And more than that, he chose the option to protect the data from hacking by killing the host, which is himself.
You're an imbecile.
Meanwhile, Max barely got home and shows us how the script for this movie was written. And after that, asks his friend to deliver him to Escobar so that he can ask for a ticket to Elysium. And of course, Escobar is not willing to give a free ticket to his former employee.
I need a ticket. Up there.
Now go fuck Shamu in the blowhole.
But after he discovers that Max has a lethal dose of radiation and can die in a moment, he offers to make a risky robbery as a payment for a ticket.
Take an Elysian asshole. He's down on Earth for some business.
And Escobar already has a certain billionaire on his mind, and he knows what exactly he wants to take from him. But Max suggests the rich factory owner instead, just to get his revenge. And Escobar of course agrees, even though he has no idea what kind of data the rich guy has in his head. And after that, Max gets his skull drilled and a computer connected to his brain, and the exoskeleton is just bolted to the bones even without removing a shirt. And after the surgery, on the next day, Max is already feeling well. And to be completely prepared for the heist, Max gets a positive medical statement from the certified surgeon of the slums.
You still jack off, alright?
But this is just a fraction of all the magical abilities of the exoskeleton in this movie. Max demonstrates super strength throughout the whole movie, and judging from the sounds of the exoskeleton, it is operated by the compressed air. But where is the compressed air contained? The exoskeleton is firmly attached to Max and repeats all of his movements. This means that Max is supposed to have huge tanks full of compressed air with him all the time to power the exoskeleton. And besides that, after getting the exoskeleton installed, Max completely forgets about his radiation sickness. And radiation sickness is not just a headache, it is the detachment of flesh from bones and organs failure. But Max looks as healthy as others. And also Max gets a cyber AK and a car from Zombie Apocalypse movie. The task is to shoot down the spaceship with the rich asshole guy over the desert and rob him. Well, fortunately the territory of the factory and the launch pad is not guarded by anyone, and it is possible to approach the fence and shoot the aircraft and plant a remote explosive on it.
Fucking hell, that was easy.
And it is not even explained how Max and his friends got to know the rich guy's schedule if they managed to catch up to him in a few seconds before the departure. And after the detonation of the explosive, the high-tech Bugatti shuttle goes down because it doesn't have any parachutes or other emergency systems. The passenger can only sit and pray for not dying from impact.
It's fucking genius.
Meanwhile, people on the station immediately get to know about the attack, and within those few minutes while the shuttle was going down, Foster manages to contact decommissioned Kruger, describe the situation to him, bring him back into service, and momentarily send an aircraft after him with 2 trained agents.
How's that even possible?
And for the Raider morons, everything is not going so well. They don't watch the shuttle, knowing that the billionaire is accompanied by the droids, and Max didn't even check the cyber AK before the heist. And the droid not even can shoot the target, but he also keeps far distance for some reason, instead of taking 1 second to go around the car and shoot the criminals point blank.
Technology!
More than that, for some reason the billionaire deployed only one of the droids, although he has 2 of them available. As a result of that, the first tin can is destroyed by Max immediately after he gets his cyber AK fixed. The second droid wakes up only when the bandits get to the owner, but he is not more useful than the first one, and upgraded Max destroys him easily. But how can Max tear the droid's head off if the exoskeleton is not installed on his fingers? From such physical efforts, Max must have just had his fingers torn off. And as soon as the guys get access to the data, they discover that
It's scrambled! I can't read the data!
bad news get even worse when Kruger and his team arrive to the place. They don't even know yet who exactly has the data in their head, but still they start to kill everybody, even though Foster should have ordered them to take everybody alive. Max gets an extra hole in his body, but from immediate death he is saved by his friend, who can't even shoot Kruger directly into the head. Hence he discovers how does a human organism react to a steel blade inside it, and Max would have been a winner in this battle if it wasn't for the Kruger's energy shield. But even after Kruger got knocked down, Max didn't have enough brains to finish him. And after this, Max, having an open wound in his stomach, being tracked from a satellite, easily gets away from his pursuers and gets lost in a crowd, or to be exact, under a cart of piggies. And the experienced agent Kruger can't figure it out that the guy might be hiding under a cart. It's already evening and Max, even though not feeling so fresh, still walks fine, and even didn't die from blood loss. He manages to get to the hospital and would have died just on the doorsteps if it wasn't for Frey having a smoke break just at this moment. And since Max is wanted and he can't be at the hospital, Frey uses the power of movie editing to deliver a barely moving man in a heavy exoskeleton into her house all by herself. And it is quite weird to see a simple nurse having such a big apartment while the world is extremely overpopulated. Frey's golden hands, a little bit of cotton, and some drops of saline, and Max feels perfectly fine the next morning. And just before leaving, Max discovers that Frey has a daughter who urgently needs medical help on Elysium. She asks Max for help, but he already has enough problems for himself, so he bounces. And just outside the building, he is spotted by one of the Kruger's military drones, which can be destroyed by simply throwing a rock at them.
Technology!
And since Max again used Harry Potter's invisibility cloak and fell out of sight, Foster's agents barge into the apartment, and Kruger starts to show Frey his impression of a real gentleman. But even after a couple of slaps, Frey doesn't tell him where did Max go because she doesn't know anything about that. So Kruger takes her and her daughter to the aircraft. Meanwhile, Max goes to Escobar and demands sending him to Elysium, since he has fulfilled his part of the deal. But life fucks him over again.
And now we can't! The flight system is jammed!
Nobody is going up there.
Am I not allowed one cock-sucking, duck-fucking little break in this world?
Well, in some way he's a bit lucky, because after Escobar takes a look at the encrypted computer code, he immediately understands that this is the program that can reboot Elysium. Because Foster has blocked the airspace of the city and Escobar cannot send Max to Elysium, he gives himself up to the mercenaries for them to deliver him to the station, let him use the medbay, and then he will give the data to them. And so that Kruger and his team would behave well, Max threatens them to blow himself up if something goes wrong.
When is nice and clean. Step aboard. Come meet the boys. This is Max.
You're cute together. Aww.
And since the mercenaries have Max, they don't have any possible reason to keep Frey and her daughter with them, but still for some reason they take them to Elysium as well. And Max, knowing that there is a high chance that mercenaries wouldn't fulfill his requirements and kill everyone, doesn't order them to set Frey and her daughter free anyway. Foster removes the airspace restrictions over Los Angeles, and Escobar rushes after Max to Elysium. And having no idea what kind of danger he might encounter on the station, he takes not all of his team with him, but just 2 people. But the funniest thing is that if the defense minister had only one agent on Earth with a missile launcher, who is busy right now with delivering Max, it turns out that there is no one left to shoot down Escobar's illegal spaceship entering Elysium, and they land without any difficulties. And the further actions of the mercenaries don't follow any logic. The important data is on stake, so why wouldn't they let Max use the medbay to heal himself, then take the data from him and after that decide what they're gonna do to him? Why to attack a person with a grenade knowing that he's terminally ill and has nothing to lose?
Is your idiot brain getting fucked by stupid?
Yeah!
And as a result of this dumb plan, Kruger loses half of his mug. And the hard landing is nothing but a minor turbulence for everyone on board. No one gets any injuries. Frey and her daughter run to the nearest house, but the fact that the daughter doesn't have the local residency doesn't let them use the medbay. Meanwhile, Max gets his ass kicked in the shuttle. Why do they need to go after this harmless woman? Let her run around. It would be far more useful to help your friend detain Max and quickly deliver the boss to the medbay before he dies from such a face upgrade. And as soon as Max is detained, the doctors arrange all the best conditions for him to escape. There is no security, Max is conscious, and they didn't even turn off his exoskeleton. Well, why? That's not likely that he would try to use it, right?
What the actual fuck?
Meanwhile, Kruger gets his face fixed, and the bloody psychopath loses the rest of his mind, and starts to do God knows what. First killing Foster, who was dumb enough to show up to the crazy guy without any security. And then Kruger suddenly decided to seize Elysium by himself and become its president.
Elysium is about to get its first proper president.
But first, they would need to find someone to decrypt the data and hack Elysium. And second, for how long will he be a president? Who will be supplying Elysium with the equipment and supplies from Earth when everybody discovers that an insane psychopath is in charge here? Well, who cares?
Whatever, who even cares?
And the mercenaries go throwing grenades everywhere around the building and destroy the station without having any obstructions. Where are all the droids that are supposed to maintain safety of Elysium will remain a mystery. And Kruger himself, being an Earth agent who is officially deactivated, God knows how gets access to the military equipment on Elysium and has all the activation codes of the brand new exoskeleton. Now I think I see how the script for this movie was written.
Drinking glue and sniffing booze.
It is time to seize the station as soon as possible, but one of the mercenaries decided to spend his time on some entertainment with Frey. Apparently his tiny little brain doesn't understand that it's better to seize Elysium first, and then dozens or hundreds of young and healthy ladies will be available to him. But Max finds them just in time, saves his friend, and finds out experimentally which is tougher, a mercenary or a concrete floor. And to the screams of his idiot friend, the second mercenary comes, who is actually supposed to run around the station and clear it from the personnel. But apparently the huge Elysium turns out to be the size of an apartment. And the experienced agent, instead of going around unarmed Max, shoots out all of his bullets while Max is being saved behind the cover. And more than that, he even lets Max get to the weapon rack, and shortly after that, the mercenary gets shattered into smithereens. Max, being in a room full of weapons and ammunition, didn't even take a few extra magazines for his rifle. And because of that, after Max meets Kruger in the corridor and shoots out his only magazine into his energy shield, he gets the only correct verdict.
You're fucked.
Well, actually both of them are. Not only Escobar doesn't have any bullets, he doesn't have any weapon at all, even though the only thing needed here is one clear shot in Kruger's head. The final cyber fight of Max and Kruger is a complete nonsense. A terminally ill, half-dead person wearing some exoskeleton from the slums manages to withstand an attack of a trained, experienced mercenary wearing the latest exoskeleton model and manages to kill him. Escobar and Max get to the main terminal and immediately manage to understand 50 exabytes worth of computer code.
Holy shit, how much?
50 exabytes is 52 million terabytes. Escobar would need 50 million years in order to check all the computer code and understand what he's supposed to change in it. But he simply changes one word, and that's it. Everyone who lives on Earth becomes citizens of Elysium. After this, poor Max dies, thanks to the rich asshole who installed the deadly protection to his data. Frey's daughter finally gets healed in the medbay, and the droids, led by the president, are not able to arrest anyone.
I cannot arrest a citizen of Elysium.
Technology!
And what a coincidence, a fleet of huge spacecrafts equipped with medbays are ready for launch to treat everyone on Earth. But the question is, why do they exist on the station, if everyone who lives on Elysium has a medbay in their house anyway? And it's not even clear how we should take the final scenes of this movie. Either this is a happy ending, or Earth is doomed, because now everyone are getting healed, stop aging, the death rate reduces, and the overpopulation grows rapidly. The factories stop working, anarchy comes because no one controls anyone, and the droids cannot arrest citizens of Elysium. The crime rate increases because the resources become limited even more. And finally Earth falls into wars, killings, fights for territory, cannibalism, rapes, and bloody sacrifices.
Is your idiot brain getting f***ed by stupid?
Yeah!
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah. You're sure? Yeah, I'm sure.
I am not the one being reviewed here.